was quiet, but whispers were not. In the silence of corridors and locked rooms, secrets began to rot. What was once only rumor, floating like smoke through the streets, hardened into evidence that no one could ignore. The Menglong case, a tale of glamour, fame, and sudden shadows, had finally cracked open. And the leaks that spilled from forensic vaults painted pictures more haunting than any fiction could create. For months the world speculated. Eyes glued to gossip. Minds tangled in conspiracy threads. Fans defended. Critics accused. But all the while, the truth sat sealed behind doors guarded by silence. Yet silence was never made to last. One night, in a lab lit by sterile white glow, a folder slid across the floor. Within its creased edges, ink still wet, lived stories written in strands of DNA. Fingerprints pressed like ghostly signatures. Charts that carried the weight of hidden nights. The first leak was small, a spark against dry wood. It showed smudges where there should have been none. Fingerprints placed at a location that Menglong swore he had never seen. Science spoke in its language of certainty, cold and precise. And it pointed, without hesitation, to the rising star. A man once framed by camera flashes was now framed by dust, powder, and trace. What shocked the world was not just the link, but the story the evidence began to whisper. The crime scene had been staged. Layers upon layers built to deceive. Yet within that staged reality, truth still left its mark. Broken glass. Blood too faint to notice by eye. Fibers from a suit that matched no one else's. Each detail clung to the narrative like thorns on silk. Suddenly, the picture was no longer rumor. It was inevitability. Menglong's smile, once plastered across billboards, began to look like a mask. Every old interview was replayed. Every laugh reanalyzed. Fans hunted for tremors in his voice. For glances that slipped too fast. For words that landed too heavy. To them, the leaks were not just papers. They were keys to puzzles they had been trying to solve for sleepless nights. Some argued he was innocent, a puppet caught in the hands of unseen masters. Others insisted the case was closed the moment the evidence bled into light. And then came the autopsy. Leaked in pieces. Whispered like forbidden scripture. It arrived in inboxes and message boards until it burned across the world. The report revealed not a clean story, but a violent one. Bruises around wrists. Scratches beneath skin. Wounds carved by struggle rather than accident. The body spoke with grim eloquence, and in its silence told of rage that boiled into chaos. But the twist was cruel. For tucked between charts and diagrams lay something unexpected. A second set of prints. Not just Yu's, but another's. A ghostly presence on blood-stained ground. Someone else had been there. Close enough to leave behind a part of themselves. Suddenly, the narrative doubled. This was not the story of one man, but of two. Allies. Enemies. Strangers bound by coincidence. The leaks didn't say. They simply cast shadows where once there had only been one. Imagine the room that night. Curtains pulled tight. Air heavy with anticipation. Silence broken by glass shattering to the floor. A door twisted open. Footsteps crossed tiles. Then voices raised, sharp, cutting. Two men. Their argument jagged. Their rage unstoppable. The struggle erupted like a storm. Chaos painted in overturned furniture. Split seconds that no one could reverse. And within the frame of evidence, Menglong's figure loomed large. But the second presence lingered. Unnamed. Unclaimed. The fandom, unprepared, tore itself apart. Hashtags lit like fireworks. Timelines exploded. Debates raged hotter than fire. He was framed, cried some. The second suspect proves it, shouted others. Opposing them stood those who saw the leaks as damning. Fingerprints don't lie, they wrote, slicing through the noise. Television screens filled with experts. Forensic analysts debated in calm voices while the world leaned forward in anxious breath. Some insisted the evidence was clear, a direct line pointing to the man once adored. Others urged caution. Context is everything, one said. The prints tell us who was there. They do not tell us why. But just as the frenzy began to cool, another bombshell landed. A tape. Scratchy. Unclear. But devastating. A voice, trembling at first, then firm. Another, sharper, colder. The argument captured forever in grainy waves. One voice matched Menglong. Undeniable. Etched in the memory of every fan. But the second voice. Unknown. Unseen. The ghost again. The spectre haunting every leaked page. Their words, though fractured, revealed tension. Betrayal. Secrets never meant to leave that room. And as the sound spread, the question grew louder. Who was the second man? The case shifted from rumor to obsession. Every channel ran specials. Every headline screamed revelation. Menglong, once idolized, now stood demonized. Yet truth remained elusive. For every damning leak, another door opened to doubt. For every piece of certainty, another possibility slipped in. The narrative twisted, bent, refused to settle. And so the Menglong case became not just a story of crime, but of spectacle. It was no longer about one man. Or even two. It was about the way the world consumed him. Fans dissected his past. Strangers condemned his present. Experts wrestled with evidence that seemed sharp and blurred at once. What was real? What was manipulated? What was truth in an age where leaks spread faster than facts could stand? Through it all, Menglong remained silent. No statement. No appearance. No denial. Just absence. And his silence became its own kind of presence. Haunting. Powerful. To some, his quiet proved guilt. To others, it was the dignity of a man framed. But the leaks did not end. Page after page emerged. Blood patterns reanalyzed. Fibers traced to clothing. Recordings of investigators debating late into the night. Each fragment widened the story. Each fragment swallowed clarity whole. And yet, one thing became undeniable. The Menglong case would never again be just rumor. It was carved into history. Etched in files that refused to stay buried. Burned into the memory of a world that had watched an idol turn into an enigma. What happens next remains unseen. The story is still alive. Still bleeding. Still shifting. But the leaks have changed everything. Whether guilty or framed. Whether victim or villain. Menglong's destiny has been rewritten. A star who once lit screens now flickers in shadows. His name forever tied to the forensic fold. And so the world waits. Breath caught. Hearts heavy. Each new leak a spark. Each spark promising fire. The stage is set. The curtain drawn. The watchers restless. The Menglong case, finally exposed, is no longer a secret in the dark. It is a storm. And the storm has only just begun. The leak did not come with thunder. It came with a whisper. A folder left where no folder should be. A lab door unlocked when it should have been sealed. And inside that folder, the story that would ignite the world. Fingerprints. Smudges pressed into glass like ghosts who refused to leave. On the surface, ordinary. But beneath the powder and light, extraordinary. For they belonged to Menglong. The star. The idol. The man no one expected to see inside a forensic file. The lab tech who first opened the folder swore his hands shook. He read the name once. Twice. A third time to believe it was real. He checked the codes. He checked the timestamps. But the truth glared back at him. Menglong's prints had been found. At a scene no one imagined him near. Science does not care for stardom. It does not care for cameras, or fans, or the warmth of applause. Science speaks in strands. In charts. In silent certainties that strip away illusion. And this science spoke loud. The DNA matched. The fingerprints matched. The file was undeniable. But how had it been hidden? That was the second shock. Buried in archives, mislabeled, misplaced. A pattern too convenient to be an accident. Who had buried it? And why? Imagine the lab that night. Rows of machines humming. Blue light cutting shadows into pieces. A technician leaning close to a monitor. Lines of code flickering. numbers scrolling. And then, the name again. Menglong. Flashing on the screen like a curse. At first, disbelief. Surely an error. Surely contamination. But test after test returned the same result. No error. No contamination. The match was real. Word spread like fire down sterile halls. From one desk to another. From one whisper to another. Until the walls themselves seemed to carry it. The name passed between scientists like contraband. Menglong. The star in the spotlight. Now the man in the file. The first leak dripped online in fragments. A screenshot here. A chart there. At first, people dismissed it. Photoshopped, they said. Fake, they said. But the more pieces spilled, the harder it became to deny. A fingerprint image. An overlay chart. A timestamp that matched the night of the crime. Soon, disbelief cracked. And outrage rushed in. Fans flooded the net with defenses. It's forged. He's being framed. This is a setup. But critics sharpened their knives. You can't fake DNA. You can't fake prints. The science doesn't lie. The battlefield was drawn. Digital trenches filled with voices. Meanwhile, in private corners, investigators panicked. They knew what this meant. The evidence was never supposed to see daylight. The case was meant to stay buried. But now daylight had come. And once daylight touched evidence, shadows could no longer hide it. Picture the first reporter who caught wind of it. A late-night call. A file emailed by an anonymous source. He opened it on a dim laptop screen. Lines of text burned his tired eyes. When he reached the name, he froze. Menglong. He scrolled back. Read it again. Then he laughed, not out of joy, but disbelief. This was too big. Too explosive. Too dangerous. But the reporter could not keep it to himself. By morning, the whispers turned into headlines. By noon, the world had seen the charts. By night, the world had already chosen sides. The lab where it all began tried to deny involvement. But the damage was done. Screenshots were saved. Files were copied. And once copied, they could not be erased. The leak was alive. And it spread like a living thing. Menglong himself stayed silent. His team issued no statement. His social pages went dark. But silence only poured fuel on the fire. The world wanted words. Instead, it got nothing. And in that nothing, people wrote their own stories. Some painted him as a victim. A man caught in a machine larger than himself. Others painted him as a villain. A star who thought his fame would protect him. But no one painted him as ordinary. Ordinary was gone. Forever. Meanwhile, forensic whispers grew louder. The file did not only show fingerprints. It showed sequence alignments. DNA strands looping and breaking like puzzles. Traces that placed Menglong not just at the scene, but at the center of it. Still, questions lingered. Why had the files been hidden? Who had locked them away? And why had they surfaced now? Some claimed it was an inside job. A disgruntled lab worker. Others claimed it was higher. Political. Strategic. Timed to strike when it hurt most. The mystery of the leak became almost as gripping as the evidence itself. Was it justice? Or was it vengeance? Was it truth? Or was it theater? Yet one thing was clear. The leak had cracked the case wide open. The name Menglong was now forever linked to forensic dust, DNA strands, and the cold certainty of science. And no amount of silence could erase that. The first leak was not just a file. It was a fuse. And the world had just heard the spark. The explosion was inevitable.